Hello, everyone. Welcome to another podcast episode after what, like a million years of not doing a podcast. I'm sorry. I know. I'm so inconsistent, but I'm trying my best. All right. So, this episode I believe is like number 6 maybe is going to be a revisiting of my very first podcast topic of my experience with art school. You saw the title, you read it. It's a part 2. And I know a lot of people are probably only going to be listening to this, but if you happen to look up, the eye candy for this video is a commission that I drew this year. One of my favorites, and it's of my friend Megan's OC. So enjoy that. Enjoy seeing that process. And I also apologize if the audio quality is a little less than stellar. My neighbor's AC is really loud and it rattles, and I just really want to record this already. I don't want to have to wait for the windows of time when they're not using their AC because who knows when that will be. Like, honestly, like they use their AC like 24/7. I'm like, wow, your electricity bill must be really high. Anyway, off topic already, and it's what, not even like 3 minutes in. But I wanted to do this video because my first podcast topic was about art school, and that was really fun, where I was telling a bunch of stories about like my art class in high school and then also my first couple years in college. And since then, I think I did that in December. So it's almost been an entire year. And I've definitely taken a lot more art classes since then. And some things have changed with me mentally. I have a lot of mixed feelings about art school. And I'm hoping to kind of, be transparent about my experience about art school. If you're curious about what goes on in these classes, hopefully I could help with that and maybe help you make up your mind about art school, even though I'm probably not the best person to be doing that because honestly, I'm still making up my mind on whether or not I want to graduate. Oh, would you look at that? My my neighbor's AC stopped right as I started recording. Thank you. Thank you. If I actually stay consistent and I keep doing these podcast episodes, you're going to be hearing me have beef with my neighbor's AC like a lot, okay? So be prepared for that. But luckily, the video quality is getting better now, starting now. So yeah, let's get into it. Perfect timing. If you're new here, I'm an animation major and I go to a normal university. Even though I say art school all the time, I don't actually go to an art institution or like a dedicated for-profit art school or anything like that. I'm too broke for that personally. So I just go to a normal CSU in California, and I get by with financial aid. And I'm just an art major. And I feel like I need to say this every time I talk about my experience with art school because I feel like when people think of art school, they always think like Pratt Institute, Cal Arts, all of those like very big names. But it's like you can definitely still get an art school experience just by going to a regular university that happens to have a good art department. Look around. These are more affordable options. You're not like if you can apply for financial aid and get some help from them, you can attend these good art classes and not have to be in student debt. So anyway, in 2023 this year I was finally able to get to the upper division classes that I've been wanting to take for years. I was sick of having to take the same intro classes for forever. And in spring, I was finally able to take some skill building classes that I was completely new to. One was intro to animation, and then the other was intro to 3D animation or 3D modeling in Maya. And before those classes, I had never ever animated in my life. Aside from maybe like the occasional blinking animation for one of my drawings, or, when you like draw over the same word 3 times, and it's just a fun, cute little like text animation. That's the scope of my experience. And so going into animation, it was kind of scary because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. It was the first time that really I was in a class where I I felt like I didn't know what I was doing, because before that I had taken those drawing classes and I was like, okay, I know what I'm doing here. I feel like I know how to draw a face, I know how to draw a body, and it was more of like same old thing that I had already learned by myself. But with animation, animation is something I have been avoiding actually for a long time. And I'm only majoring in animation because it's the broad department that can get you, how to storyboard, how to character design, how to do all of that, storytelling, illustrations, and all that. And so that's why I'm taking animation, and not because I specifically want to learn how to be an animator, but because it's kind of a package deal. Plus, that there was no other better major in my college. So when I got into animation, I was like, am I gonna be good at this? I'm like, what if I hate this? I mean, it's all right. It's really intimidating, I feel like, because I already struggle with drawing just a singular frame of illustration, but animation is like you have to draw so many. I'm like, that's scary. I'm like, that's so much time and effort. I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I'm built for that. And it was nice to kind of learn that, okay, maybe I'm not totally built for it, but I'm capable. Like I was able to do the assignments at a satisfactory level. And I also got lucky to get a really cool professor who was laid back and lenient with everything. Animation, this class was also the very first class that I'd ever taken in any type of art class where it was like everything was digital. I mean, just digital art, period. It was kind it felt kind of weird because I was like, "Whoa, I'm actually using digital art at school." Because usually everything is traditional. You're gonna have to buy like their art kits from Blick. Those stupid, I'm so sick of them. I have like 20 of them, like the big drawing pads that are like 24 inches by 18, and they're all going to waste because I just don't do digital. Like, I mean, I don't do traditional outside of those classes. So I'm like, and it's like, yeah, you had to sit on those really uncomfortable drawing chairs, the drawing horses or whatever they're called. But in animation, it's like they teach you how to do digital art, because you're not going to go into the animation profession and not know how to do digital art. It's like you have to do things digital. This isn't Disney in the 90s or 80s anymore. Everything is digital. And it was so honestly refreshing to be in a class where I didn't have to hide that I was a digital artist. I didn't have to be I didn't have to be ashamed of it, because in so many instances in art classes where professors, they're so passive aggressive about digital art. They hate it, they don't respect it, they think it's cheating, whatever. And I just have to be like, well, okay, screw me, I guess, and I'm like, okay, I'm never talking to you outside of class or outside of assignments, outside of questions. I just don't want to talk to professors who I can already sense won't have respect for me just based on the fact that I am a digital artist. So in animation, it was so nice to just do digital art, and it was normal. It was just normal. But in animation, just like any other class, you start with the basics. We actually didn't ironically, I just went on that tangent about digital art, but ironically, we actually didn't do digital for the first couple weeks because we had to learn how to animate with just a lot of pieces of paper. and also pictures. So our first assignment was stop motion, and I did a cute little colorful stop motion thing. And it was one of those assignments where um the professor was like, it has to be at least a minute long, and it was the first week. And so my idea was to have this mushroom growing, and then it gets stuck and I can like help it like get it out of the dirt or whatever. And I would like water it. I like printed out and cut out some stuff. And it was fun and cute, but it was like maybe 40 seconds long. And I was like, oh gosh, like I don't know this professor yet. What if she's really strict? And so I really made the frames go slow, and so if I do show it, you'll see it. There are some areas where it's like really slow. Like I think like when I'm picking up the watering can, my little elephant watering can, there's a part where it looks like I mean it's taking me like 5 years to pick up this watering can, and that's because I needed to stretch my animation, my stop motion just a little bit more to reach like 1 minute. But then it turns out my professor really isn't that strict. Like, there were some people who had, like, 20-second, stop motions, and she was like, "Cool, you're good to go, awesome." And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" You know, but because of that experience, I was able to, like, learn, okay, she's not that strict, so I can get away with a lot of stuff as long as I'm actually animating. And then we did a flip book. I won't be showing that because I don't really like how my flip book turned out, but then we transitioned to digital art. We started with animating this little flour sack dude, and honestly, I got really attached to my flour sack. I viewed my flour sack as a menace. He's just standing there, walking there, jumping. And I mean, like, it's a flour sack, but it's a character at the same time. And I was like, this is my boy. This is my flour sack. And so animating, I mean, you draw this thing so many times. It was hard. Okay, but honestly it was also fun. And after we did the flour sack, we we then moved on to like kind of like a Mickey Mouse type of character. And boy, that was a struggle for me. For some reason, like animating actual limbs walking was way harder than a flour sack. I'll show it here, like the walking animation, like that mouse is doing some weird walk. I don't know, it was just a really fun class. We didn't have any quizzes, we didn't have any essays, we didn't have this huge final. Well, actually, we kind of did. I don't know why I said that. But like you were just drawing. You were just drawing a lot, and it was really fun. And also, I think it was really fun for me because Professor was extremely fun to work with. Hello, everyone. Editing and Lauren here. I'm going to sound different for a little bit because I'm adding in a small section of a story about an assignment that I forgot to talk about while I was recording. So here it is. For this class also, there was a really fun lip syncing assignment where we had to record ourselves and then we would animate that audio of ourselves. And so I have this clip of me saying like, "What? You're talking to me?" I don't know, like, and I look I look like, I kid you not, Lord Farquaad in this animation because I finished the animation really quickly. And my professor was like, "Okay, Lauren, I know you're a little bit more advanced than everyone else, so I want you to draw hair." So she had me add hair to my assignment, and so I added this little hairstyle, even though it's not the hairstyle that I have, but I just added like a Lord Farquaad type of hairstyle, and it just looks so funny. I don't know. So, I'll play that here, and it's gonna be me going, "What? You're talking to me?" Or like whatever I say in that. So hope you enjoy this little clip of my homework. What? You're asking me? I don't know. What? You're asking me? I don't know. All right, hope you enjoyed that. That's it for that little segment. Now we're going back to where we were before. Eventually at the end of that semester, we learned how to storyboard. And our final basically started like 2 months ahead of when the semester actually ended, because it's gonna take you a really long time to do a single animation of like even just 10 seconds. And so we started very early. First, we storyboarded whatever story we wanted. So you were able to choose and do what you wanted creatively, which I love. I mean, we've all been in those really boring art classes where we're just drawing boxes and vases or whatever boring object, and we're not applying creativity to it because you're doing like still lifes. But animation is all about creativity. And I really wanted to be able to pour some passion into whatever I was animating, that I know I would be motivated to actually work on it. And so at the time, I was really, really into doing historical romance stuff, like drawing historical romance, reading it, watching it. And so I wanted to draw a ballroom dancing scene. My teacher was so laid back. She didn't even expect you to have it fully cleaned up. She didn't expect you to have it colored. Honestly, it could have just been an animatic and she would have been fine with it, because even that is a lot of work. And so my goal with this, with the storyboard, was like, okay, there's this girl, she's a wallflower, she's at a ball, and she's seeing everyone dance. And she wants to dance too, but no one has asked her, and so she's looking a little sad. And then she kind of has like her little Prince Charming dude who comes and sees her looking sad and he asks her to dance. And she kind of, blooms into a person who's very happy finally being able to do what she wants, to enjoy what everyone else is doing, because she was watching people dance and she was like, "Oh, I want to dance, but I can't dance alone. I don't have a partner." But then the partner comes and it's like, "Yay, I'm happy because I finally get to dance like what I wanted to do." And this went through some iterations. At first I was in the storyboard phase. I was messing around with like, what if she was a servant? Because I was watching Downton Abbey. There's a lot of servants in Downton Abbey. So I was like, what if she's a servant and she's watching the rich people dance, but then she's like, "Oh, I can't dance because I'm not like an aristocrat." And then another kind of commoner guy comes around the corner, sees her peeking through the window, and then they dance outside in the moonlight. It was very romantic. But for some reason, I got really intimidated with having to draw like outside, like even though like it should be fairly simple. And so I switched it to where she was also a rich person wearing a nice dress. Oh my god, I'm sorry if you can hear my neighbors walking upstairs. These walls are thin, and if you hear a little click here and there, that's because it's my neighbors moving. All right. So, uh I also wanted to apply some of my character design knowledge to this animation. And so I wanted to design a character who was Indian, Punjabi, and I was doing some research on that. It was fun. And the guy is supposed to be Asian, but I couldn't go too far into the details of it because honestly, I was just running out of time. And so when you see my little rough draft of it that I turned in, you'll see some of those character traits. And it was really fun to do that research for the character design also. I didn't do any research for the guy though. I just made him look Asian and that was pretty much it. It's it's kind of funny when you see it. I'll repeat it a couple times so you can see it. It's kind of funny because like he just kind of looks like a default like blob of a person. And then there's like a singular frame where suddenly he's like an Asian guy. And like it's just like, whoa, who is that? Looks like a completely different person. Like, who are you? And then like after that singular frame, he's suddenly back to like kind of default mode, like typical guy. And I wish I could fix it, but I still don't have time. I'm sorry. I don't know if I'll ever revisit that because animating is just hard. I think the only time I'll ever animate again is just animatics, not too much movement, but just still storytelling in it. So that was animation. I got attached to my flour sack. I animated some people dancing. and also did a pretty cute stop motion that was like within my aesthetic. Because I feel like it's very common in art school for you to, like, if you go into it already having a style from being a digital artist, or, oh, my neighbor's AC once again turned on. So we might get some background noise again. So, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, I feel like if you go into art school having some experience on your back already, and you go in kind of having a style, most like 90% of the time, you're gonna have to sacrifice that and throw it away. You're gonna have to compromise and draw in a way that you don't typically draw. If you like to draw anime, you're not gonna get any respect, most likely, from any professor until you get to upper division classes, because most intro to drawing professors are very traditional. Some of them are abstract artists, but 90% of the time, they are not going to be anime supporters. And so you're going to be drawing realism, you're going to be studying how to draw very realistic faces, and you're going to be drawing chairs, objects, whatever, vases, apples, pears, bananas. You're going to be doing still lives. And it's going to be incredibly boring and also uncomfortable because for some reason, drawing classes love to make you uncomfortable. They're allergic to chairs, they're allergic to comfortable chairs, they're allergic to desks, and you're gonna be drawing on those gigantic drawing pads. You might have to buy a gigantic clipboard where you sit on these really gross and uncomfortable drawing chairs. Drawing horses is what they're called. They're so skinny. So no matter how skinny you are, there's never gonna be enough space for the entirety of your butt. So when you're sitting on it, your butt's gonna hurt. It's just a bad time. You have nothing to lean your back against. And so it's just like it I can't even I don't have words. I hate that thing. I have so much hatred for that chair. I hate it. If you're gonna go into art school or if you're thinking about it, just know that that's something you're gonna have to deal with for probably the first couple years because you need those prerequisites, you need those intro to drawing class credits, and unless you took like AP art and passed it, you're gonna have to take those drawing classes unless your college has like a wave form for waiving those classes because you're already experienced. So that's animation. I wonder how much I was actually on topic with that, but um that class was one of the actual fun classes for me. I enjoyed it. And honestly, I would probably take it again. And then, oh yeah, and I took that animation class online. So I didn't have to go back and forth from campus, even though I literally live 5 minutes away. But yeah. Next is 3D animation. And when I was signing up for this class, I was very, very, very intimidated. Way more intimidation than animation. Because I was like, first of all, I don't even know how to animate. Second of all, I don't even know how to 3D model. And now this class is going to teach me how to 3D animate? But the title of the class is a little misleading because you do, like, I think we did maybe one assignment for 3D animation. The entire class is actually just learning how to use Maya. Learning how to use Maya and learning how to 3D model. And it's straightforward enough. First we start with a box, and then we start with a cylinder, and then a sphere, and then eventually you're making an entire room for your final. You learn how to UV texture, you learn how to animate a little bit, how to do cloth physics and all that. It's pretty fun. It's just a downside of that that class was that I was taking it on campus and it was an 8 a.m. class. It was the only slot that I got into. And I am not a morning person. And this professor was a little more strict when it came to just being on time. We had a few moments in class where he was lecturing us about being on time, and it's like, if you can't come on time to an 8 a.m. class, then how are you expecting to go to work at 8 a.m. or 9? And because a lot of people just wouldn't show up, or a lot of people would constantly be late, like, every day. I think I was only late, like, 2 times, but, you know, um, he also wanted some energy out of us, but it's 8 a.m., everyone's just woken up maybe 30 minutes ago, so it was very low energy class, like, no one was really talking a lot, and so he was like, "Come on, guys, wake up, like, an hour earlier, like, get your blood flowing already, get your coffee," but we were, like, not having it. We were like, the class was low energy, I mean, we did our work, but we were like, we were like morning zombies basically in that class. But the bulk of what I remember from this class was it was extremely confusing. I feel like 3D modeling, 3D art in general is just it's something that no one really ever 100% learns. Even my professor was like, "Oh, there I have a problem with this one model and I can't really identify what the problem is." It's because you're going to be running into a lot of problems and there's going to be like 10 different solutions to it, and it's just really confusing on which one you should try, or even just identifying the problem is really difficult most of the time. But it really opened my eyes to how you can use 3D art as a tool and 3D models or 2D illustration, because I think a lot of people still see using 3D assets to assist in drawing as cheating, but it is so useful. It saves so much time. And our final was to create a room of some kind, either a bedroom, a kitchen, a living room, whatever. You could even have done a bathroom if you wanted, but they needed to have at least 5 objects that you model from scratch. It needed to have lighting, textures, and then you needed to have 2 things that were moving, animated in it. And then it needed to have camera work, because we also learned how to render these frames and actually turn it into a video. And it was really fun. It opened my eyes to the process that like 3D artists have to go through. Like, like the animated movies, what the kind of the production behind those would be like. And it's just cool to get some experience in that. And also I think one of the biggest values in art school, even if you don't graduate or if you drop out, is uh getting to know professors who are literally professionals in the industry, like they have worked in the industry. I've had professors who have worked at Disney, did lots of work for Disney movies, Mulan, Big Hero 6, Frozen, Pinocchio, all of those where they did work for a lot of those movies. Um and they have a lot of stories that they tell about the industry, and it's a really valuable information for you to figure out if you want to be a worker in the industry, or maybe you want to be self-employed. And I feel like college in general is valuable in that aspect, where there's a lot of value that you can get out of it aside from just getting the degree. Experience, for one. And so even though later on I'm going to talk about the mixed feelings that I have about college and how I've contemplated dropping out, I do think still like the majority of it, like probably 70% of my college experience has been so worth it. But the 30%, I'll talk about that later. But I got a little out of topic there, but anyway, going back to what I was talking about, my 3D art class, I decided to do a kitchen. I I really like kind of a cluttered room that still kind of feels organized somehow, like an aesthetically cluttered room. And when I decided on this concept, I was being a little ambitious, all right, because I really underestimated how much work it would take to even model a spoon. Like, I spent maybe 4 hours modeling a spoon, and even then, it probably still wasn't modeled the best. But the kitchen was really fun. I modeled a fridge, a countertop, a sink, some jars, a shelf, a cutting board, a rolling pin, and an oven. Oh my god, a stove. I think the stove was, oh my god, like that was so much work. Surprisingly, one of the easiest things was the fridge because it's literally just a bunch of squares on top of each other. The things I struggled with the most are actually also window. The window was extremely difficult because a window, guys, when is the last time you really looked at how a window works? There's a window frame, and then there's the inset on the wall, and then there's like a frame for the frame. And it's like windows are actually a lot complicated than you might realize. So I would say, out of everything I modeled in this, the window, the stove, and oh my god, that stupid spoon was the one that took the most time. The cloth animation was actually really easy, and the colors, they were just solid colors, and the camera work was just also really simple. The way it turned out was less cluttered than I had envisioned, but I think the overall vibe of the final product was still in line with my aesthetic. And my professor would put your assignment up on screen, like what you submitted, and he would look through it. He would look through the file, check out your topology and all that stuff, and he would give you feedback, and that was also really cool. I think art school, art college really helps you to also learn how to respond to feedback because professors, they know how to give actual feedback, constructive criticism. You know, it's so different from like being online, posting something on Instagram and someone just saying this looks ugly or something. You know, instead the professor genuinely wants to help you, and they tell you how to fix your mistakes, and they tell you what you did correctly and why it looks good. And I got a lot of compliments about my 3D room, about my kitchen, and my professor had told me that it was good enough to put on like a portfolio if I wanted to apply for like a 3D job. But that's not something I'm interested in, but it was really nice to know that I was capable of that because if I never went to art school, if I never went to this college, I never would have tried that. I think the only experience I had with 3D art outside of this class was attempting to do something on Blender. And Blender made me have a meltdown. Like it's so difficult to learn this stuff by yourself because even if you go to a YouTube video, they start throwing around these like vocabulary words like extrude, bevel, topology, vertex, phase, faces, edge loops, and then you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so I can't learn from what you're telling me because I don't know what you're talking about. But in these classes, they literally start from the bare minimum of knowledge. And so you're actually able to learn and you're able to directly ask the professor questions if you're confused. And so these two classes, 3D and 2D animation, they were really, really valuable for me because they really upgraded my skill set. And that was in spring. That was last semester. And I actually went on Instagram and I asked people to submit some questions that I could answer. So I'll do that before I talk about fall because some of these are pretty good questions. And there's a lot of them, honestly. Oh my gosh, there is so much. Okay, so um Radish asked Radish, someone asked if I ever met people in art school who were also content creators or have their own online shops. And to be honest, I am not an awfully social person. I remember back in high school, my goal going into college was to make friends and be outgoing and stuff. And then it just didn't happen. It is so difficult to make adult friendships. And so at one point, I just kind of gave up. And I was like, you know what? I don't want new friends. I'm satisfied where I am with life. And so I don't really talk to people outside of class. So I never really got to get to know my classmates well enough to find out if they're like content creators or stuff. Some of them do like plug their Instagrams and social media, but outside of that, didn't really talk to them. I have found some people from school who I ended up following though, because they have really cool art. But I think the thing with people who go into the industry is that they don't usually have a huge online presence. Because I mean, if you think about it, like how much do you know about the people who work on Spider-Verse or other animated movies like from Disney? Um the simple truth is that you don't really know much about the people whose names are in the credits of those movies. And that's because they're too busy working that they don't have time to build up an online following. And most people who start out online as content creators or social media artists like on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, most of them continue that line of work and they stay as content creators. They use that to be self-employed, to be freelance workers, and usually most of the time it's really difficult to transition into from being a content creator to working in the industry. And honestly, I think having a bigger online presence actually makes it harder to land some jobs in the industry because then the companies can go digging into your social media. And what if they discover something you said like I hate 3D art, and then you're like signing up for a 3D art job and they're like, "Yeah, actually we don't want you because you said you hated 3D art, so that means you hate this line of work." Something like that. So most people also I feel like in college, at least this is how I've felt. I usually hide my online presence. Like I usually find ways to avoid talking about my social media platform when I'm in college because first of all, I don't wanna make anyone feel bad where, I mean, I've been online for years. I've had the time to build up an audience, and I don't want my classmate who is, like, say, a beginner, who has, like, only 1,000 followers on Twitter or something, to feel bad about themselves because suddenly I'm flexing my followers on them. And so I always avoid that topic, and I think that's also why a lot of other students kind of tend to shy away from that topic because you never know how someone's going to react to you being online or to finding your Instagram or something. And most of the time people are kind of embarrassed about it. It's embarrassing to talk about yourself in real life like in the context of you're like having a Twitter following or having an Instagram following. It's just not the best thing to talk about. So that's the reason why I don't really know. I haven't really met people who um are also like online artists. That and also I just don't talk to people. A lot of people asked what type of assignments that I have to do, and I've already been talking about that. So, um, a lot of questions asked if I actually felt like I was learning anything, and I feel like in the beginning it definitely didn't feel like I was learning anything, or I was like learning how to draw a face. So I was like, all right, okay, I already know how to draw a face. In draw intro to drawing, they always teach you how to do perspective, and I'm like, I already know how to do 1 point perspective. Why do I have to do this for the third class in my college experience. I'm like sick of this. But once you get to the upper division classes, then you're really, really learning. Someone asked, I like this question. Did I get dressed and look cute every day, or did you rock the sweats? I was definitely a rock the sweats type of person. In my first year of college, I was like, I want to look cute because I want to make a good impression because I want to make friends. But then, nah, I just don't have the energy to do that every day. And then eventually I went to college, I went to class looking like, a bum, like I just woken up 30 minutes later. And now most of the classes I take are online, and so it doesn't even matter. A lot of people are asking, is it stressful? And I think it definitely is stressful, depending on how well you can manage your time. But I also think it depends on the teacher, on the professor. There are some professors where the work, like stressful work, can definitely become laid back because they aren't pressuring you to do so much. But those professors are rare, I will say. They're very, very rare. People who are asking, is it worth it? I kind of mentioned it earlier where I think it's like 70% worth it. And then 30%, it's like, this is a waste of time. So it just boils down to how much you value the years that you're going to have to spend in school. And it also boils down to how much you're willing to get the most out of the experience. Because I feel like for me, 70% of it was worth it because I really did try to take a lot out of the experiences, even the classes that I hated. Um, I try to take a lot of like the things that I experienced in them, the people that I met in them, and just the stories that I would hear people say, the knowledge that I got. I really try to apply it to the work that I'm currently doing. And so in the end, it makes it worth it. It's like you can't just say that something is worth it. You have to make it worth it for yourself because if it was worth it for me, maybe it's not worth it for you because you ended up not thinking about whatever you learned in the class like ever again. Then that wasn't worth it. But if you really try to make it worth it, honestly, I feel like anything is worth it, right? All right, enough answering questions. I'm going to talk about my current semester, fall 2023. And oh my god, this semester has been a wild ride. This semester has been wild enough on my mental health to make me seriously consider just stopping. Like it's a huge difference from last semester where I was like, this is fun, this is cool, I'm learning. And then now it's like I want to drop out and it's because of this stupid lower division drawing class. This drawing class is lower division. Okay, it's why I'm taking it. It's a prerequisite to anatomy, it's a prerequisite to figure drawing. And those are classes that I want to take to build my skills. So I have to take this one. And I was like, oh, great, another drawing class. It's just going to be drawing boxes again. Guess what? Oh my God. Absolute regret. This one, I'm taking this online. Maybe you follow me on Instagram if you've seen my journey with this class, but it's something else. I would post the homework that I was doing in this class. It felt like an anatomy class. I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I drawing the front and back of a realistic skeleton? Why am I drawing a rib cage? Why am I drawing the entire muscular system in an intro to drawing class? I can't wait for it to be over. I mean, maybe I'll show these drawings, maybe I won't. But I also got one of those professors that never give out perfect scores. So I spent so much time trying to perfect this skeleton project that my professor gave us. And then she gives me a 48 out of 50. On almost all of my projects, I would get like 99 out of 100 or 49 out of 50, 48 out of 50, 9 out of 10. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Can you tell me what I'm doing wrong? Or are you just allergic to giving out perfect scores? Because it felt like she was just allergic to perfect scores. And I'm like, what's the point? What's the point of that? I know that there's always room to improve for everyone, right? But it's like, why are you punishing me for the work that I am doing? What's going on? And this one almost broke down like my mental facilities. Like I really wanted to quit because this was the one class that it gave me anxiety. I hated going to even the Zoom call because for the first couple months of class, my professor required us to turn on our cameras. And it's really just a professor. I feel like if I had a more laid back professor who was giving us a project where we draw a skeleton, I would have been down for it. But it's because this professor, oh my God, we had to share our screens in progress every class period. And like, she really would like nail down on you if you manage to do only 30% of the work instead of 50 on your progress, where it's like like you would have due dates for your progress where it's like by Monday you need to have 25% done and by Wednesday you need to have 50% done. So it was really also jarring to not be able to work at your own pace. I feel like as long as they get the work done, that's fine. It was really stressful where it's like, "Oh my god, I need to draw the sketch already." Even though I really would have preferred to get it all done in one sitting rather than in sections because everyone works differently and you just really cannot force a process, a workflow on students. It's so bad. Like I wasn't the only person feeling this way in that class too. Like I one of my classmates had to email this professor and be like, this is really stressing us out. And she kind of compromised a little bit and it got a little easier after the midterm. But this was took such a huge toll on my mental health where I'm like, is college really worth it? Because this is killing me. Aside from that, the same question, right? Is it worth it? I do still really think it was worth it because this is a class that pushed me to finally learn something about anatomy. Yeah, I drew a super realistically detailed skeleton, and guess what? Now I know how the skeleton works for the most part. I know what some bones are called, and I know how to it's improved my ability to draw a human because I have knowledge about the skeleton. Drawing the muscular system, I'm better able to draw full bodies now because I know a little bit more about the muscles. And it's like the assignments themselves, I learned a lot from doing them, but I feel like the way this class was structured, it was so difficult to get through. And if you're going to art class, if you're thinking about going to art class, there's definitely going to be classes like this. Not every class is going to be woohoo funsies like my 2D and 3D animation class, okay? There are going to be classes where they make you want to drop out, they make you want to stop, and they make you want to give up. And there's a lot of factors going into it. Sometimes it is the work that you're doing, and sometimes it's not the work, it's just a professor. And in my case, it was a little bit of both, but the majority of the time it was the professor that I got. I mean, if you saw my Instagram stories, honestly, thank you for the mental support that you gave me. If you messaged me that it's like, "Hey, this looks great," because that really did help me keep going with this class, this awful, awful class. All right, so on the bright side for this semester, since I started with the bad one, I took a perspective class, or I'm taking a perspective class with my animation one professor. So, remember the laid back professor that was like, who cares if it's actually 1 minute long? That's fine. The one who let us submit very rough animations for intro to animation. I took her for perspective and this class. has been great. I've learned so much, and I've learned so much about my own skill set because drawing backgrounds, drawing perspective has always been something I've been scared of, where I'm like, the only background I will ever draw is like some stickers surrounding the character, and that's it. I was like, you will never catch me drawing a room. You will never catch me drawing a house. But no, now I've drawn rooms. And right now I'm drawing a library. And it's been really fun to touch back on one point perspective and be challenged to draw a room from start to finish. And by finish, I mean clean line work because she didn't require us to do the colors. It was fun to touch back on two-point perspective and design a or not design, but draw a bedroom for that and actually draw furniture and then include some storytelling into it because we basically have 3 projects for this class. So we do exercises, some small homework assignments, exercises on how to do certain things in certain perspectives, like how to draw stairs in one point perspective, how to scale humans, how to draw a ramp, how to draw a roof, because those have specific rules. And then you make a room as your big project. And so we made a one point perspective room, a two-point perspective room, and now we're working on a three-point perspective room. And we also got to learn about how lighting works in perspective. And this class, I will say, has to be the one class that I have learned so much in and has been the most worth it college class I have ever taken in my life because I'm like, I can use this. I can use this knowledge that I am learning, these skills that I am learning to the work that I do right now. I could use this in commissions. I could use this for my videos. I can finally draw my characters existing in a space in their room, in their house, in whatever, because now I know that I can do it. I know that I am capable of it. I don't particularly enjoy working with perspective because it's still really difficult. And I'm kind of a perfectionist with it, but it is so nice to know that I'm able to do it. And I I can't tell myself anymore that I can't draw backgrounds because I know that I can now. And I feel like that's also a great thing about art college where it's like it pushes you. It pushes you to do things that you otherwise would not do. And sometimes that causes you to discover things about yourself. Oh, the AC stopped. Thank you. Finally, some clear audio. So, I feel like this is kind of a downfall that being self-taught has, is where being self-taught means that you most of the time will not be pushing yourself to do things that you don't want to do. If I continued to be self-taught my entire life, who knows, maybe I never would have actually studied anatomy. Maybe I never would have studied perspective and I would have just continued to draw my characters in a white background all my life. And I mean, like, there's nothing particularly or inherently wrong with that. You don't need to be able to draw everything in the world. But it was one of my goals to reach this skill level and improvement to be able to draw a character existing in space, in 3D space, to be able to draw my characters hanging out in their living room, you know? And for years, I would tell myself, I can't do that yet because I don't know how to. But then now I'm like, yeah, I can do that. I can probably do that next week if I really tried. It's just, I won't be because I have homework. But it's like, this is what art school can do for you, where it pushes you to improve, it pushes you to learn stuff about yourself. And you can get that value out of it even if you don't reach the finish line. And I'll talk about that later. Because if I get into it, I'll really get into it and I'll forget about talking about this last class. I've been talking for a really long time, so my voice is kind of taking a toll, but I'm almost done. I'm almost done. This last class that I want to talk about is my intro to ZBrush class. This one is teaching me how to sculpt. So there's a difference in 3D art with sculpting versus modeling. Because in Maya, you're more so modeling things that like have hard edges, objects, like a chair, a fridge, a countertop, that type of stuff in Maya. But in ZBrush, you're modeling like organic things like a human face, a hand, a leg, a creature. And in this class, we actually only have two assignments. Our first assignment before the midterm was to design a creature and, model it, color it, texture it, and everything. Full body creature. And then our second one after the midterm, which is the one we're currently working on, is to design and model a robot. And the first couple weeks is just learning how to navigate ZBrush, how to get familiarized with the shortcuts and how to use the tools and stuff. And then you just get to working every week. And this is one of those classes that I'm taking online where I take it every Friday, one day of the week, but it's like 7 hours long. But luckily, I got a good professor who takes breaks whenever needed. He has us do a lunch break for an hour. So we're not just sitting there for 7 hours. We do it in like sections, and so it's very well paced, and he also gives really nice feedback if you're showing him your progress. And the thing with these classes too is like professors are there to help you learn, right? They're there to help you. They're there to assist you in achieving what you want to achieve, but you won't get that assistance from them if you don't ask for it. You have to ask for it. Even my drawing professor, who, I kind of ragged on before, but um, she's not a bad person. Like, I've learned a lot of stuff from her. I've even taken her in the past. The parts in that drawing class where I really feel like the knowledge was worth it was when I was showing her my work and she was giving me feedback like, "Hey, this bone is should be longer because of this reason." And I was like, "Okay, cool." But it's like you won't you're kind of missing out on a lot in a class if you stay really passive and you're not showing the professor your work. So in my ZBrush class, I'm kind of really adamant about showing my professor my work because half the time, half of those students probably aren't paying attention. And when he asks, like, has anyone uploaded their work so I can check over it, I always type in chat, like, I have uploaded mine. Can you look at mine? Because I want to know what he has to say. It's like taking these classes. When are you ever going to have the opportunity to show a person who worked in the industry your work and to get like one on one feedback from them? Because this professor, my ZBrush professor, he modeled baby Rapunzel in Tangled. He modeled Rapunzel's dad, the king. And I'm like, you're literally a legend. Like in my eyes, you're an absolute legend in the animation industry. And he has so much experience under his belt, so much knowledge to share. And if you stay passive in a class like this, where I mean, he's literally asking, does anyone want to show their work to me so I can talk about it? And then you don't like volunteer yourself, then you're missing out on a lot of feedback, very important feedback. And it's not mean, too. Like, I was really struggling with my model, with my creature model, because rather than an actual creature, I opted to model a humanoid, which was a demon girl. Maybe I'll show it on the screen, who knows. But and I was struggling with the hands. My hands kind of look wonky, and I think my legs and my feet kind of looked wonky too. And he was able to help me make it look better. And he was able to tell me, hey, this is why it looks kind of weird. And here's what you can do to fix that. And he would like kind of fix my model for me. And it was like so enlightening to see a professional at work and to see them improve your own work because you're like, "Oh, wow, like, my eyes are opened. I can see, yes, the thumb was too skinny and that's why it looked weird," something like that. And right now, I'm designing a robot. This is what I have going on so far, and it's been really fun. My idea with this robot is very heavy, top-heavy robot. It's just a dapper looking robot. What if the robot was wearing a top hat? And then his body kind of looked like he was wearing a suit, you know, and a collar that's like starched up. Something like that. It's just fun. And I really love the movie Robots. And so I was like looking at the art book from that, trying to get inspiration, and it's just fun. I feel like in these art classes, you really have to turn the work into fun for yourself, or else you're not going to have a great time. If let's say you're working on the same assignment that I'm doing, and you're like, oh, I don't really like robots, but I have to do this anyway, so I'm just gonna force myself to do it. And you just draw like a generic robot or you work on a generic robot that you're not actually interested in. It's not gonna be fun. But if you're like, you know what? I don't really like robots, but I like lamps. And what if I made a lamp that was like a robot and it was like walking and it had a personality and stuff? Then you can turn it into fun because it's something that you're slightly interested in because you like lamps. What if you try to make it funny because you're into funny things and you're like, I'm not a huge robot person, but what if I did like a trash can robot? And then you're designing a trash can robot and you're getting invested into the project and you're like, "You know what? Actually, maybe this is fun." What if you do a computer with legs, something like that, right? Like kind of what I did with my 2D animation final, where I was like, I'm not totally a huge fan of animating, but I'm a huge fan of historical romance and ballroom dancing and, just romance in general. So I applied that to my project and it made me invested. It actually, in certain parts, I was excited to work on my homework because I was like, I want to see how this goes. And it starts to feel more like personal work than it does homework or schoolwork. There's a lot of ways to make art school worth it for yourself and fun, you know? You just have to really apply yourself. Because if you are planning to go to art school, but then you go in there and you are very kind of just passively going through the motions, it's not going to be a great time and you might leave art school feeling like it wasn't worth it. But yeah, I don't know how many times I said this already, but you really have to make it worth it for yourself. And that brings me now to like me feeling like I might not reach the finish line. I'm supposed to have 2 semesters left. One more year in college and then finally I'll graduate. But honestly, I'm getting a little sick of it. With this YouTube channel that I work on and also doing commissions, I'm already making money. I'm self-employed and it's not like I plan to be a part of the industry. When I graduate, if I graduate, I don't plan to apply for a job in the industry. I'm not even planning to apply for an internship. And so I'm like, is this a waste of time when I can just continue like focusing on myself and working the job that I'm currently working on, focusing on my business rather than doing homework? Like honestly, I'm kind of sick of doing homework. And even though I know that there's still a lot to be learned from the good classes, like I'm pretty sure I would improve tremendously if I took a figure drawing class. I'm also really interested into Viz Dev and I'm interested in taking more animation. But at the same time, in order to graduate, I still need to take another boring art history class. I still need to take some prerequisites that I probably won't enjoy. And I'm like, that's the part of it. It's kind of the fluff of like college that makes it a little not worth it for me. Where I'm like, should I keep doing this or can I just take a figure drawing class outside of college and still learn because, there's online courses that you can buy, you can support artists on their Patreon and get access to their knowledge. It's just a little more work to access the information, but it's still information, and I wouldn't be wasting my time doing homework that I'm not invested in. So that's kind of where I am currently, where I'm like, I feel like I would be fine if I dropped out. And if I continue, I will probably learn a lot, but at the same time, I'm gonna start to feel like it's a waste of time when I could be using that time to make more videos and earn more money. And that's where it gets complicated. That's where it's like a lot of this is situational. My experience is going to be completely different from yours. My situation is completely different from yours. My goals and my work is completely different from yours because I'm a business owner. I'm self employed. I've been self employed for years now. I like being my own boss. And if I'm my own boss, is finishing college really one of my priorities if college is built to prepare you for going into a working industry where you're not your own boss, That's where I am right now, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I don't really know how to end this podcast. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I don't even remember what I talked about. I don't remember if I talked about anything useful. But I just hope that this was good enough. And if you've listened this far into the podcast, then thank you for being here. Honestly, it kind of feels like I got possessed and then I talked for an hour and then now the ghost has left my body and I kind of have no idea what just happened. And I'm like, wow, I'm looking at the recording. I've been talking for an hour and I'm like, what did I talk about? Yeah, I'm just hoping that this could be a good video. I'm just hoping that my neighbor's AC doesn't make the audio quality too bad because when I apply noise suppression, it kind of ruins my voice a little bit. Let me know if the quality is bad, and I guess I'll just have to wait and record whenever their AC is off. I really hope to do this podcast more. I feel like I've stayed away from it because I've been getting a little insecure with my art channel where this month I've been uploading more than usual, but my videos haven't been getting a lot of views. And I'm trying not to get to me, like the numbers. But honestly, it got to me a little bit and I kind of started to doubt myself where I was like, should I really make more podcast videos because I feel like people don't care about them? But I'm going to go ahead and just do it because who cares, right? Even if one person watches it, then it was worth it. Oh, there you go. My neighbor's AC starts again when I'm ending my video. Oh my god, I hate this AC because like it's like it's not just loud, it also rattles. Like I don't know if you could hear the rattling, but it rattles and I'm like, why? Why is it so loud? And oh, okay, I'm not gonna rant about this stupid AC. Anyway, yeah, thank you for listening to me, and hopefully the next episode doesn't take another 5 years to get uploaded. I'm hoping to talk about my old art eventually, maybe show some of that. And also, do a podcast episode with my friend Kels because she is one of my closest artist friends. And I hope to have her on my channel a lot more. So, yeah, thank you for listening. And I'll see you next time before my voice disappears. Goodbye.